Dudes and dudettes, how are you guys? This is Chazzy and welcome back to The Mixer, the segment on this channel where I give you guys all sorts of detailed analysis from all walks of life. I'll talk about people, places, animals, food, sports, travel, the whole 9 yards. Hence why it's called The Mixer, because I like to mix things up in this huge playlist here with over 200 videos at this point. And I really wish I could get to 300 already so I could change that little part of the intro, but that's probably going to take a while, especially this year. Now, for my very first Mixer of 2025, I'm going to be doing something very special, unique, and unprecedented here on this channel. For the very first time, I'm going to be talking about one of my favorite, if not actual favorite, Christian singers of all time, and I'm going to be delving into some religious themes as well. So this is a first for me on this platform. Bear with me here because it's a lot of information, but I have my trusty script down here below the camera, so hopefully I'm going to give you guys, proper info and as accurate info as possible, as I talk about the career of Rebecca Jean Smallbone, known professionally as Rebecca St. James, right? She is a pioneering figure in CCM, which stands for Christian Contemporary Music, right? I'm gonna say CCM quite a few times in this video, so try to memorize this right now, okay? It stands for Christian Contemporary Music, all right? And also gospel music as well, worship, right? And she unofficially began her singing career back in 1987 when she was just a little preteen, just a tiny little Rebecca Jean singing her heart out to God, And it would be only in 1991 where she would actually release her first full-length album, right, in Australia. She is Australian, by the way, right? She's not American. Well, technically because she does have citizenship, but she's actually from Australia. A little bit of a fun fact for you there. In 1993, she would go on to sign with Forefront Records. That is, for some reason, I get the name mixed up. It's Forefront, not Front 4, sorry. She signed with them in 93, and it would only be in 1994, when she would release her first major label debut, and the rest is history, as we all know, because she went on to release a whopping 10 studio albums, okay? 5 extended plays, 2 live albums, 9 compilation albums, 4 compilation albums, 60 singles, and 14 music videos, everything that you see on screen right here. She did all of this right throughout her entire career, and also within the Christian community, she had 9 #1 singles on Christian radio. So 9 of her songs went #1 on Christian radio, got a lot of airplay in the community, and she has also sold almost 2 million copies, in her career so far. Nearly there, man. I think we should really get her over to 2 mil because she really deserves that milestone, She needs to cross that threshold. And Rebecca has had a timeless influence in Christian music because a lot of her songs were covered by other popular Christian artists, and many of her songs are also used in churches as worship, right? There is a genre of Christian music called worship music, which is basically the kind of music that you hear in church, right, where everybody sings along. And so many of her songs were used in that aspect as well. She herself has covered and worked with many other Christian artists. Her career is a testament to faith, honestly, that anything is possible if you just believe in God, and He gave her an amazing talent, and what she has done with that talent is her gift back to Him, and I think it's a really beautiful story. I'm going to be diving a little bit into her early career next, but before that, let's take a look at a random clip here of Rebecca singing her heart out back in the early days. I hope I was able to get something good for you guys there, right? I don't really know how YouTube works with copyright when it comes to this kind of thing, right? But hopefully I gave you something there, and it's only going to get better from here. Now, for this next part of the video, I'm going to focus on her career in the 90s, right? So from her early days back towards from her early days onward towards the new millennium. Now, like I said earlier, in 1991, that's when she released her very first independent album called Refresh My Heart. She was still living in Australia at the time, and her artistic name was Rebecca Jean. And now this album here had elements of gospel and CCM, right? And it was a lot of it was very, very soft and, melodic, right? It was her early days trying to find her footing in the Christian music community. And get this, she was only 13 years old when she released this album. It was crazy. And she did find moderate success at the time, but then her family moved to Nashville, Tennessee, and they did struggle financially for a bit, right? And actually, their neighbors really supported them through this period there because they brought them food and took care of them. And the Baptist church in the area actually gave them furniture culture when they found out that they were sleeping on the floor in their homes. So they were very moved by that. So this is already an early sign of what God was doing in Rebecca's life, right? And things only got better from there, because in 1994, that's when she released her label debut, the self-titled Rebecca St. James. The same kind of musical elements, you know, a little bit of CCM and gospel here and there, but this was her officially getting her foot in the door, I know, within the Christian music scene, right? And now there were 2 hit singles, which was Here I Am and Side by Side. Here I Am is a declaration of, you know, like, it's literally her coming into God's presence and saying, look, I'm here now to do what you want me to do, which gave her a very resounding different kind of voice to speak her mind when it came to religion, right? At least that's the way that I interpreted. Fast forward a little bit to 1996 and we have the release of God. That's what the album is called. Right? I don't know why I'm stuttering. Now, this one right here, she was already 18 at the time, and this is where her music moved to a little bit of a new direction, because she started to implement elements of Christian rock along with CCM. So it was a tad bit heavier and also a little bit more energetic, you know. Now, there were singles like God, like the name of the album, and also Go and Sin No More, which I think is very cool, because this song right here is basically from the perspective of, I would imagine, Jesus, right? Where he's telling you to go and stop sinning because he forgives you no matter what you do, and he'll always be there. And like whether it's in the morning, afternoon, or night, 24 hours a day, Jesus will be there for you no matter how much you sin, as long as you ask for forgiveness, because he will always give it to you. Now, a very interesting part of her career here is that she was nominated for her first Grammy for Best Rock Gospel Album, which she unfortunately did not win. You know, I really think she deserved it, because that's a really good album, but it only gets better from here, right? In 1997, she released Christmas, which was her first holiday album. Now, in my opinion here, despite, you know, having some elements of CCM and also Christian music, I think it's one of her weaker albums. It's kind of like a forgotten album, and like the music was much softer this time around, right? Celebrating Christmas, but there aren't really any notable songs from this album here. It's one of my particularly least favorites, right? I'm not a big fan of this one here, but I am a much bigger fan of what she did in 1998 when she released the album Pray, right? Now, this right here is when her music really started to take a different turn, because now we had a little bit of pop rock thrown into the mix along with the classic CCM that she was known for. This was a very, very good one, because some of my favorite songs come from this album, which is like, for example, Pray, which is the title of the album. Almost every album has a song of the same name, right? There was also Hold Me Jesus and Love to Love You. These 2 songs are like, in any playlist that I see of her, these songs have got to be in there, and if they're not, I will put them in myself. I love these 2 songs so much, man. And this was when she finally won her first Grammy Award ever for Rock Gospel Album of the Year. Very well deserved, wrapping up her final album of the 90s with the Grammy win. And so this to me right here is a testament to how resilient she was, just continuing to make her music and getting herself out there, right? Singing the Lord's good name onto those who want to hear. And this is where I'm going to wrap this up here. You know, I'm going to talk a little bit about the rest of her career after I show you guys another clip here of her. If by any chance I couldn't get any good clips to show you, I might also sprinkle in some photos of her, you know, performing or speaking at events or preaching or singing in church or something, you know. But hopefully I can prioritize videos, you know, the clips. Now, in the new millennium, already in the year 2000, she released her album Transform, which, you know, was very solidly based in CCM, right? I think I made a mistake early in the video. I called CCM Christian Contemporary Music, but it technically stands for Contemporary Christian Music, right? But it's pretty much the same. I hope you can forgive that little slip up there. Now, there were 2 very important singles here in this album, which were Reborn and Wait For Me. Now, these 2 songs here were very, very interesting. One of them talks about a friend of hers having converted, right? And finding Jesus, and her life completely changed for the better. And Rebecca observed that and was really moved by it. So that's where this song comes from. And I really like the chorus, right? Wait For Me is a song that deals with sexual abstinence, right? Where basically it's a song where she wrote for her future husband, right? So just for him to wait for her and not, you know, do anything else with other women, let's say, right? Because abstinence is a very, very strong belief within the Christian community, Christianity itself, right? So those who practice abstinence, it sort of gives them, especially women, a closer relationship with God. So that's basically what she's saying. She's telling all of the men of this generation to wait for the women. So be abstinent until they find the right person. So I think it's a very moving message. Now, musically speaking, this album here is where she most changed up her style, because there were elements of electronic and funk and pop and rock, right? So everything mixed up in the little CCM that we already knew her for. Now, the lyrics, aside from what I said, right, also dealt with salvation and worrying and unity and hope and also sexual purity, like in the song that I mentioned. This was a turning point for her career because she started to, find more space in mainstream music, right? Now, in 2002, she released Worship God, which is my favorite album of hers ever, and probably one of the best Christian albums of all time within the genre. I really don't think that there's anything that I've heard that's better than this, right? Because it combined elements of everything that she had up until then. So a little bit of gospel and CCM and some worship music, right? Worship music is a subgenre of contemporary Christian music, which is basically contemporary worship music, so CWM, right? Which are songs that can be used in churches to praise and worship, right? So that's what this genre is. It's a whole subgenre in and of itself. Now, Worship God took on a little bit more of an edgy pop rock style, right? And there were quite a lot of hits, and some of her best songs came from this album. So, for example, Song of Love and Breathe and God of Wonders, Lamb of God, Above All, Better Is One Day. A lot of these songs aren't even hers. They're actually covers by other Christian artists, but she put her own spin on them in a way that just made them feel like hers, right? Many of these songs were covered by other artists as well and around churches. And this album here actually peaked at number 94 on the Billboard 200, which marked the very first time that any album of hers got to the Billboard Top 100, right? Which is very impressive. She was already climbing the ranks more and more each year, man. Now, it also went on to chart number 5 on the Christian Contemporary chart, right? So it's a whole nother kind of Billboard on and of itself. I love this album so much. Above All might just be my favorite Rebecca St. James song ever. It's the song that's on my Instagram profile, right? It's pinned to my profile because I love it so much. I've been hearing some of these songs since I was a kid going to church, and so it's also very nostalgic for me as well. I just love it, man. God of Wonders is the same thing, right? It's a song that I can trace all the way back to my childhood going to church and listening to these songs with my parents in the car and Christian radio. It felt really good. This to me is her best album, but she did release something very impressive also in 2005, this is a mouthful. If I had one chance to tell you something in 2005, my God. And this album here is pretty much almost entirely based on Christian rock, and it's really impressive as well because she did sprinkle in some elements of alternative music, right, with a little bass in guitar and bass lines, some string arrangements, so there was a really good assortment of sounds there as well, but it was mostly just Christian rock. And there were songs like God Help Me, which already starts off the album like on the 5th gear. I really like this song a lot. Can't really understand what it's about. I believe she is talking from the perspective of somebody who was in despair and wanting for God to come and save them, right? There was also Alive and You Are Loved. A lot of these songs are a little bit more upbeat, but there are some slower ones as well. Now, the themes here are about God refreshing people through worship, you putting your faith in Him and Him lifting you up and trying to lead you towards better pastures. And I really think that's really, it's not even implied. It's very directly said in some of the songs here, and His grace towards us as well, and our trust and gratefulness to Him. All of these things are covered in the songs on this album here. So, if we had one chance to tell God something, it would be how grateful we are. That's what the perspective that Rebecca tried to bring in, Now, she went on a bit of a musical hiatus for a few years, and it would only be on It would only be until 2011 where she released another album called I Will Praise You. Now, this here mixed elements of CCM with praise and worship as well, so now getting into CWM, right, contemporary worship music. There were singles like I Will Praise You and Shine Your Glory Down, and this album here was a bit of a departure from her other works because you could tell that the sound was a little bit different, right? Almost like it was a little tamer. And at this point, she actually parted ways with Forefront Records after 17 years of working with them and releasing music, right? And she signed with another label after that. Now, this album here has themes of praise and also God's light in dark times where we can find Him when we need Him the most, finding strength, through Him and getting through life with our faith through him, basically, right? And it also introduced Rebecca to a whole new generation, you know, of worshipers and people who hadn't really known her work back then. And after 11 years of a hiatus again, she released her most recent album called Kingdom Come in 2022. This went back to her roots of CCM, right? There were songs like Middle of the Fire, which I love a lot, Kingdom Come and Battle is the Lord's, Alleluia Jesus. And this album here actually was really cool because it featured a collaboration with Christian pop duo For King and Country, which is comprised of her two brothers. You know, that's really cool. The small bone siblings, man. It's so awesome. I know how all of the siblings work together here after finding success in the Christian music world, right? And this album stands out lyrically because there are a lot of really strong messages of empowerment through God, and Rebecca delivered a really solid vocal performance. Her voice is still just as good as it was many years ago, and I found it to be really impressive what she did here in this album. It's a lot tamer and slower and softer than the other ones, and you know, it seems like that a lot of the songs weren't really like they were just, she was pretty much collaborating with other artists to try to get into a new sound, but I think it was really nice the way she incorporated it. It's awesome. I gotta take a breather. Let's take a look at another clip of Rebecca here.
So let your kingdom come and your will be done on earth as it is in heaven. Let your kingdom come and your will be done from now until forever. We'll keep on singing. Oh, let's start with us.
Now, of course, a person as blessed as Rebecca isn't going to limit herself to just music, right? She's also a pretty successful author, having published 15 books throughout her career, and there's also another one coming out this year in 2025, so that will make it 16. She's also starred in 9 films, that's right, she's done 9 movies, not all necessarily in the lead role, you know, but she has performed, right, in cinema, and the most recent movie that she participated in was called Unsung Hero, released back in 2024, which is actually about her and her own brothers and their life journey to become Christian singers, right? Very good movie, definitely recommend it, and it almost made me cry, honestly. Now, she is also, you know, she's also done musical, well, just one musical, stage show and opera kind of thing, you know, called Hero, which was about Jesus, and it's very interesting to see how much she can branch out, right? And I'm not a big fan of the opera, so I don't really care much for that one there, but maybe I'll watch it just because she was involved, I don't really know. And she is also a spokesperson for this Christian humanitarian aid organization called Compassion International, and she, as like not just only a Christian performer but also a person, she is an advocate for pro-life and sexual abstinence, right? So she has a lot of really strong beliefs that are rooted within her Christianity upbringing. So her Christianity upbringing, no, her Christian upbringing, let's call it that, right? Now, there is a reason why she is so well loved in this community, and she actually changed my life for the better recently, because towards the end of last year I started to get more into gospel music after I went back to church, right? In case you guys don't know, I don't think I've ever even mentioned this on my channel, not that I can remember, but I am actually Christian. This is the way that I was brought up since being a child in America, and you know, coming to live in Brazil, my religion stayed the same, but I have found myself straying away from God's presence, you know, many times throughout my life. And most recently, after I went back to church and I sort of found myself a little bit more through Jesus and these songs, like listening to Rebecca St. James was an eye-opener for me, because I have been struggling a little bit emotionally lately, like having to change jobs, which is in another city, and also changing homes, living with people again, right? And trying to keep myself grounded throughout all of these changes and things that are happening in 2025. So I'm looking forward to the future, but I get very anxious sometimes and scared, and listening to Rebecca St. James really helps me to calm down and put things in perspective and know that it's all in God's control, right? So I don't really have to worry about what I'm doing anymore. Even on YouTube here, right? It's just like everything that I do is through Him, right? It's Him showing me the way, and that's how I feel like my life is right now. Like no matter what I do, every decision is through Him. Right, so that's what Rebecca St. James taught me, and what she helped me to remember that I had forgotten, you know. And now, if you happen to follow a different religion, that's totally fine. Let's be respectful to each other, you know. Everybody has their own beliefs, but Rebecca really changed the landscape of a lot of people like myself, and also to me, she is the best Christian singer, and you're welcome to try to change my mind, but you're not going to be able to. And that wraps up this video here, guys. I really hope you enjoyed it, and it's very good to talk about this kind of thing here on YouTube, where I have a platform and a voice and people listening. So whether or not this video gets a lot of views, it felt good. It's very soul cleansing to put this out here, right? And talk about how Rebecca gave me newfound faith again and love of just being in the presence of the Lord. It feels really good. And so that's it. Let me know in the comments below if you're a fan, if you've ever heard her music, right? And it's crazy, man. It's just how one little girl who loved God went on to win Grammys, all of these accolades in the music landscape. It's really impressive and a testament to how far faith can take you. And if you guys happen to enjoy this video, please go ahead and give it a like and also subscribe to my channel because I release videos every single week. And while you're at it, hit the notification bell too so you can know exactly what time I upload it. It's all good. This is Chazzy signing out for now. And as always, I will see you guys in the next video. God bless you all and roll the outro screen.